What's up, everybody? It's your favorite fantasy club's favorite nerd. Today we are looking at KFC's Kingorilla. Maybe not your favorite fantasy club's favorite nerd. That might be a lie. But sometimes the lie is more interesting than the truth. And sometimes it's more funny, which I personally think it is in this particular case. And it's very difficult to just get him balanced. Oh, blast you, Skullface! I have a mixed history with KFC products. I love the blaster they did. I love the Junkions they did. I'm not crazy about most of the X-Transbots offering, and we're going to see where this one ends up. But before we do, we're going to take a look at accessories. And we'll start off with these two guns. There's actually a lot to talk about with the accessories because of the options. One of which is you can hold him in his hand with this, so to speak, and then you can have this plugged in here, and then this can plug into 5mm ports on his body. You could take these off, and just to give you a heads up, you could take these apart here with this baby screwdriver, which they also supply you, which you know is my favorite third-party accessory ever. And then you can put in batteries, I would imagine, and then you can press this button, and this will light up red. And then you have a gun using blast effects. This is a translucent, so it should carry the light fairly well. I don't put batteries in my toys as a general rule, especially when I don't know what I'm doing here, especially when I don't have the batteries handy. And then this is just a red piece of plastic here, and then red here. Gunmetal painted there. And there are a couple options with this, which we will get to. But before we do, I just want to make sure that I haven't missed anything, and I don't think I have. I want to show you something else. He comes with this, which is for jet mode, but it also can double as a shield, and you can kind of bend these and have this sort of look on his forearm or on his shoulder. It plugs in there, or on his back. And once it is on his back, you can also take these and plug them in, and it can give you a variety of looks, which we'll go ahead and look at now. So I had it upside down, but whatever. You'll lift this piece up here. And then you can take this with the wings pointed, not painted, like most of this figure, down, and then you can have these guns up. And that is a pretty cool look. I dig that. And in case I didn't show it clearly, I think I had it up like that. This does close all the way, and it can have a pretty clean look given what it is. And then here's kind of this look. There's a couple problems I have to point out. Here's one plugged into there. You could plug it into his forearm if you had it straight, whatever. He doesn't really hold his gun whatsoever. It's because this peg is so fat and short, and the slot is more thin and long. So it's really held in with tension, but because they're KFC hands with a couple little differences, they don't hold it very well. This thing you can do a couple options with. You can have these things pointed forward, of course. You can have them back and flipped over the whole forearm, and then you could even, spin this kind of sideways if you like that look. And then you could adjust the forearm there, and then bring the hand back here. So there's a number of different display options that you can do with this. While we're right here, we'll talk about a couple of detailings, just this gunmetal paint that's painted in a few recesses. He comes with these two things, which will show off a few uses for him, but they're an orange translucent, and they go kind of from a lighter orange to a more full, darker orange. And you can tab these into the back of the jet as like thrusters, like the energy being released, which is pretty cool. He also comes with two extra hands that you have to assemble if you want them. I'm not sure why, and I don't much care why. I'm not a big fan of his hands in general, but he comes with two extra ones. I wish he would take two of the ones he already gave me away and give me something better, but they're here. And he comes with a display base, which we've seen before. We saw it with the sharks that he did, which I like, the Sencho Barbosa and the Haiku. And then there was another one, I believe. And then he used it for Scourge as well, I think, and maybe something else. They've been used a lot, but they do their job. They're pretty effective, and there's no reason to change this. I'm in full support of him reusing the mold for this. It's effective, it's sleek, and it works. Lastly, I usually count this as an accessory. It's the Headmaster. And it pops in here, which we'll talk about when we talk about the figure. We'll talk about this when we talk about the figure as well. The legs just come down very easy, and then this opens up, and then the arms open up. The head is on a swivel, the arms are on ball pegs, and then hinge at the elbow, and the hips are on ball pegs, T-jointed. They're fine tolerance-wise, and the knees are on hinges, but they only hinge backwards, so you get nothing really there and nothing really else. And it doesn't do much to hide the other things in this mode, but there he is. Now let's talk about the figure. So the first thing, my first impressions of this guy right out of the box was just how plain he is, so to speak. He just doesn't present very well. There's nothing flashy about it. There's nothing to really add to his presence. And I want to point that out because most things here are just molded plastics. We don't have a whole lot of paint and finish here, which would have really put this thing in a different kind of bracket. As a result, it looks very novice, in my opinion. And I'm not used to them doing that, actually. Like, they usually add a fair amount of paint. Wreck-Gar has a fair amount of paint. Blaster's covered in it. It had problems, but he is covered in it. Apollyon was covered in it. They usually add some paint, but recently I feel like they've been getting away from it, but it seems to be a trend going across the board with the exception of the Takara Masterpiece, I must admit. That being said, let's talk about him. I hate the head sculpt. I thought I remember seeing something that they were going to do a different, like an alternate head sculpt. Maybe they're releasing that with Snapdragon. I could have swore I saw something somewhere, but I was looking for it on the interwebs. Not sure if you've heard. It's a very dark and dangerous place, I might add. But I was looking for it, and I couldn't find anything about it. So maybe I'm dreaming, but I swear I remember seeing a different head design. I don't think this looks anything like the G1, the cartoon image, which I think this is trying to kind of go for, and I think the face looks silly, personally. Like, I think it looks pretty dumb. You do get a swivel. You do get a little bit of up and down. It's strange. I'm not even sure exactly how it happens, but you get it, and you get the swivel. That's basically it. You do get the stats. We've already talked about that. You get a ratcheted waist swivel. That works nice. And then you get this bit of paint down here. This is purple plastic, gray plastic, black plastic. This has silver added onto it, and then there's gold and black painted in there. Actually, that might just be gold and gunmetal painted in there, which is nice either way. And nothing painted on the vents, nothing painted on the shoulders, nothing painted on the forearms, nothing painted on the pelvis, nothing painted on the thighs, and then some stuff on the calves as accents. It just doesn't present itself as anything special, I must admit. The good news is the figure is pretty well built, so let's continue. For the shoulder, you have a ratcheted universal that gets you all the way up to there. Looks a little silly, destroys the sculpt a good bit, but you do have the range if you need it, and then a ratchet all the way around. Both ratchets feel great. They both feel perfectly placed. I think it's extremely well done in that regard. You got a bicep swivel. You have a double jointed elbow, which is a little tricky to get the second joint, but it is there. There. Not the prettiest, but it's there, and it gets you past 90 degrees, and if you want it to be a bit prettier, you can just go to 90 degrees, and that still works fine. Wrist swivel. Individual articulated fingers on ball pegs at the base knuckle, which is part of the problem, but these are all on hinges instead of ball pegs, which is a better approach anyway. And they all are at each knuckle, including the thumb, which has a knuckle hinge here and there, and then a ball peg that plugs in. So you can pretty much do everything you want with the fingers except hold the gun. Same for the other side. For the hips, you have these hip skirts. They come up to have ratcheted universals, which are also extremely well made, extremely well built. No problem whatsoever. You got the Van Damme. You don't have the Monty, but you do have it forward. You have a knee. Double jointed, ratcheted at both ends, extremely well built. And then you have the calves. These little pieces here are cumbersome, I've found. Like, they keep wanting to flip out or flip, like there's no real, like, it's like they don't have a home. Red paint here, which looks pretty good, even though it's over black. I think that's paint anyway. That actually might be plastic. That might be plastic, folks. We do have a little bit of gunmetal paint here, which looks good. Yellow paint on the toes, which surprisingly looks good for yellow paint. The feet, you have a toe tilt up, a heel spur back. You can hide the heel spur if you don't like it, by the way. And then you have a pretty decent rocker, actually a great rocker, I would say. And then you have all this stuff on his back, which is just not the prettiest. He's a difficult character to hide the stuff on his back, and some of this is character design, but even still, not the prettiest. If you'd like, you can go with the wings out look. They are, I don't know, I feel like they're a bit intense, but if you like that, you can go for it. And yeah, that's this guy in a nutshell. There's something else I want to point out about the back of this figure that I forgot to do, and that is you can have these configured a number of different ways in terms of how you want it to look. I think that my favorite way is kind of up like that with the wings kind of on the outside, and then if you want to have the wings out, you know, it would look like that. I think that that looks the best, but it's up to you. There's a number of different ways you can do it, and There's no, you know what? There's no wrong way. You know why? Because you paid money for it, and if you like it, you win. Size comparison wise, there he is with Fanstoys, Galvatron, and Lupus, and I think he's a great size. Alright, so let's transform it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these hands, because we've heard rumors and stuff of issues, and look, these are KFC hands. Like, there's nothing new under the sun here. They always suck. So I have them folded up the way that I think they go in best and the way that they came in packaging. So that's thumb up, hand to the side, rotate in, close up. We'll do that again. We'll move the thumb out of the way just to get this compartment door open, and then thumb up. So the thumb goes in first, and the hand goes in sideways, and that's the way it came packaged. We're going to see how it survives, and then we'll close this up, okay? And then we'll collapse the feet as well, just up and up on both sides, up and up. We can untab this stuff now as well. Untab here, untab this stuff from the back a little bit, and you can open up the crotch. And actually, we can untab this back kibble here. Just give yourself some working room. And I think you need it in order to open this up. So we're going to open the legs up here. And we're going to open this up. And then this comes down and captures these two ports. And that puts our legs in the appropriate, or the hips rather, in the appropriate positions. So we'll do that. Oh shoot, you know what? I forgot. I think we need to tuck that in. And then we can just fold these around. Which brings us to the top half of the figure. So we're gonna extend these, and then we're gonna take the head off. You can do that at any point. We're gonna untab these black pieces here that are attached to the shoulder from the gorilla arms. And we're going to slide up the entire midsection. Once all that is done, you should be able to slide up the gorilla arms an additional bit and plug them back in to the shoulders. So we'll show it from this angle, up, and then the shoulders. And now we just got to keep track of these arms. We're going to need to get them out of the way eventually. These legs need to come up in this section, and the red bits need to tab in here to the back. In order to do that, there's a release button here that works fairly well. Just push it, slide it, and as you come around, just give yourself as much room as you need. Sometimes as you come around, you can push a little bit further, and she's got a little bit more love to give. And that should do it. And we'll try for the other side. Coming around. There, and then this piece doesn't quite fit in 100% right, but that's what you're looking for in general. Now let's finish off this side while we're here. So you can extend the monkey hands and bring them around to the back, and then you want to take these arms, and what you want is this elbow to face on the outside so that you can get a little bit in, so that the forearm will peg into there. I don't know if I did a great job of explaining that, but let's see if I can't do a better one. So we want the elbow to be able to fold in towards the hand, and then we want that to be facing that. And when that's all said and done, it goes. On the underside, you can bring this whole piece down now. Get these out of the way. And these red tabs will come back around and lock the nose cone into place. the nose cone, the canopy, and then the nose cone does come up and plugs in to there. And then your last step, move this to this side, and then this to this side, and then you should be able to bring the whole thing around, and this piece will tab into there. We'll try it on this side as well. This to this, so the furthest way out, spin around, and tab in. And that is her. I'll get her cleaned up, and we got to put the tail fin on and stuff, and we'll take a look. So there it is, and I'm going to go handheld for a second. But it's an impressive jet. Like, it's a little goofy looking in the back. That may be true to design. I honestly don't remember. But it, you know, it doesn't look finished in the back. It's just like two big arms coming off the back of it. I like the way that the guns look on there, and then they can articulate out a little bit. That's cool. It is heavy for this stand, so it does shake and wobble, but obviously it will sort itself out by the end. The cool thing that, well, it's cool in theory anyway. There's a couple issues with it. There's a button right there that as you go to lift up the cockpit, it moves the button forward, and then that lights up this board if your battery is in there. Now, the only issue I've had with it is trying to get this guy in without knocking this thing out. I'm sure it's possible, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the one to do it. Either way, it's a quick fix to get it back in, but I'm doing it one-handed because I got this camera. But I think that overall, it sort of achieves its goal and does a fairly good job. We'll back out a bit. He also has landing gear, and we're going to start the transformation by putting them away so you can see where they came from. And now we have to undo what we have done for the most part. Make sure that this piece is separated. Oh, we'll loosen up some of this other stuff. This has to come out. This has to come out, and then that should free some of this up. Okay. And then we have to get the legs out. So we'll untab this, bring the legs out, and we'll untab this and bring the leg out on the other side. This part's a little obnoxious, so I want to make sure I take my time with it and show you guys the best angle I can. What I like to do is get these legs in the right position, which is like out here. Just get them out of the way, but give yourself room to get to them because we need to change the angle of this universal joint. And it's a little messy when this piece has to come up. So we're gonna bring this piece up. We're gonna bring these shoulder pieces so that the black angle here is 90 degrees facing straight up. And you see how mine's been chewed up from trying to get that one side leg in. And then we want the elbow to be able to bend towards the nose cone, and we want this port to face the rear. And I'm not crazy about this because the angle isn't locked. Like you're kind of using it freehand almost. So we want this to come up. And these peg in to those two spaces there. And we can get these shoulders out of the way to give ourselves a little bit more wiggle room. Oh, what am I doing? I'm sorry. These pegs had to be facing the opposite way. So elbow facing forward, and then these pegs facing the opposite way. And this nose cone gets in your way. It's just, it's not very graceful. There, that's one. And now we're gonna do the other. There, that's where we want it. Lock it in. Now we're gonna have to clean up a taste to make sure we have this 90-degree angle. And then we have to pull, look, this came undone. We'll use our screwdriver because we have to pull out this tiny little tab Let's see if I can't get it on the other side. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. There. And we want that out at 90 degrees. And then we want it to peg in to that part of the foot. So I bring it so that the leg is overshot, and then I hit my trigger again and collapse it until it lines up. And that's it. And it's just that little peg, so it's really not the best connection. Yeah, I just don't care for that. And you're dealing, like, the ratchets are great, but you also have to use them to your advantage or disadvantage in order to get them in place. So we'll try it again. We're gonna come up and over. That's the peg hole we're looking for, so to speak. We're gonna hit our trigger. And we're gonna try to put it in a position of success. There it is. Now we need to solidify it. In order to do so, make sure that these two pieces are up. I don't think I mentioned that, these two gray pieces. Bring these shoulders around, and you want that groove to be on the underside of that angle. And that should put everything, theoretically, where it needs to be. Whether or not it does so is anybody's guess, because then this red tab here is supposed to tab in to the underside of there, and that locks everything in place. Now I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that that is probably more needed than this little peg here, and you could probably just go without, and you gotta have everything lined up perfectly for it to fit anyway. And all of this comes undone as you're trying to do it, but that's basically it. Which brings us to another headache, which is opening this piece here and then getting this monkey hand out, monkey paw. And the fingers get all jammed up because we used them twice. And it's not a good idea to do what I just did, which is pulling the fingers, but I'm reaching the end of my patience level. So bring the monkey hand out, monkey paw, and then bring this down, this down, this down, that down. Same for the other side. Open up here, monkey paw, bring that out. Bring the hand out. Collapse, 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 collapse. Get your monkey feet down. Attach your monkey head. And that's basically it. I'll get him cleaned up. We'll take a look at him. And there he is. And admittedly, I like this. Also, I should also admit, while I'm admitting things, that I am partial to apes. I love them. I love Planet of the Apes. I love gorillas. I love orangutans. I love chimps. And I love even those other kind of apes that nobody remembers, including me at the moment. Bonobos, something like that. Here he is. I have him armed up. I have these two guns on the side, and then the two kind of things still pegged into the same place in the back. I can't really find anything to do with this that looks cool. You can probably work it in somewhere, but it doesn't look natural. But other than that, the head you can get a little bit down, but it does bang up against the back of this stuff here. And then you get the swivel, and then the jaw does open up, And underneath that, there's like those guns. He has eyes like sculpted in, and then the visor around, which is a little strange. I don't know if you can see that, but that's just looks odd. And then we have the shoulders ratcheted here. You have an outward movement as well that's ratcheted. They really put a lot of ratchets in this thing. I mean, then the range is great, and then you have a ratchet hinge here, a ratchet here, and then just a friction hinge here, and then all your ape fingers are individually articulated for better or for worse. And then the legs, you have a ratchet here, a ratchet here, a ratchet here, and then an ankle rocker. So like they're really beautifully done in that regard. There's just a couple little engineering kind of hiccups along the way that make it not fun, and a real lack of paint that comes through, especially for something calling itself a masterpiece. But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent ape mode. I mean, it's, you know, they never look 100% great, but I think it's pretty cool. I like monkeys, though. Even though I know monkeys aren't apes, I'm very much aware. And size comparison-wise, there he is next to Caesar. Real quick, I didn't point this out, and I want to. The rear monkey legs have a heel spur right here, but I haven't found the need for it, but it is there. Final thoughts-wise, this is a real mixed bag. Let's talk about the issues. The sculpt is decent with the exception of the head, which is arguably the most important part. Now, I know that another replacement head is supposed to be coming, but I'm not sure if that's coming with an extra purchase or if that's coming, you know, at the expense of Keith or at the expense of your distributor. I don't know where that loss is being taken, but it's an unfortunate one either way. The biggest problem here is the lack of paint. For a masterpiece figure, this comes across very plain. As a result, not only does it not strike you as a masterpiece, but the presence itself is generally weak. When it has in a kind of an impressive size, you really wouldn't think that would be the case. But I'm telling you, in hand, it just kind of looks like a wash. I also feel like it's relatively expensive for not having any paint with it. So unfortunately, especially for a guy like me, whose major priority with collecting is the display, he fails. Because the things that I need to work for a display, a strong presence with sculpt and paint, utterly falls short. I had to switch the head around because I couldn't bear to look at it. There are a fair amount of positives though. This is probably the best built KFC product I've ever dealt with. Every joint, with the exception of the fingers of course, Keith, let them hands go. Rethink it, Mac. Start from the ground up with those hands. Nobody likes them, except for you. So let them go. But this thing is full of ratchets, and every joint moves perfectly. It's clean in that regard and extremely posable and stable. Even for being as big and kind of back heavy as he is, he's extremely stable, which is awesome. I have absolutely no complaints about the build of this figure whatsoever. There's a couple issues in terms of transformation, how things like, especially that one leg kind of poses a problem, but for the most part, the transformation is pretty enjoyable and straightforward as well. I think the alt modes are decent, and I think it cleans up fairly well. So like, this is a real mixed bag. I would say that if Maketoys did not have one coming, I would give this a strong recommend. I bought this, and I bought this from Manolo, shout out to him, and I'm not entirely happy with my purchase. But this isn't hateful. There's enough good here to give this a soft recommend. Just know there are issues. A couple things I want to touch on before I close out are these hands. I think it was the monkey hands. I heard that P.A.W. had an issue with them. I don't blame that on P.A.W. at all. I think that these KFC hands are just prone to breaking. They break all the time. I think that he needs to switch that and get rid of those ball jointed fingers. I think it's a mess. I don't think it's well done at all. MMC did it better with Carnifex, and Fanstoys has been doing it better with just about every release they put out as of late. I think Giga does a good job with them as well, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's not bad. It's a decent figure overall because the build is so good, but it doesn't look as great. So it's your call. All I can do is present to you this information, and you have to make kind of the best decision possible for yourself. I bought it. I have some regrets in buying it, but you win some, you lose some. You might feel differently than me because that might matter more to you. Let's just keep it this way. But all I can say is that I'm not 100% comfortable with my purchase, but I'm not hating life either. It's just, you know what it is, folks? It's fine. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.